Some of you might not realize that the Magnificat Foundation was actually conceived of by a married couple, a man and a woman who are parents of 12 children. So in a very real sense, then, Magnificat is most at home in the family, the domestic church. This is why I'm so happy to be able to introduce to you and welcome our keynote speaker, Clara Gaymard Lejeune. Mrs. Gaymard, herself a wife and mother of 9, is the CEO of General Electric in France. Clara is a wife, a mother, a best-selling author, a businesswoman who somehow still finds the time and energy to roller skate and swim and ski with her husband and her kids. By her own admission, it is her deep faith and it is her family from which she derives the strength and grace to be a successful businesswoman. Now, Clara's father, Professor Jerome Lejeune, he personified the deep respect to life, for life, to which we are all called. A brilliant and dedicated pediatrician and geneticist, Jerome Lejeune discovered the source of Down syndrome, that it came from the genetic code. His skill and his courage placed him on the front line of a battle being waged with a growing culture of death. A friend of Blessed John Paul II, the cause for his beatification was opened in 2007. You can learn more about the servant of God, Jerome Lejeune, at a special display in the lower level over in the Welcoming Center later on. Now, I want to warn you, we're going to interrupt Clara's presentation just briefly at high noon, but we're going to do it for a very noble purpose. We will pause to pray together the Angelus, a practice that we follow on the Catholic TV network at noon and at 6 each day. You see, in Catholic countries before the year 1000, it was a custom to recite 3 Hail Marys in honor of Our Lady's singular and exalted role as the Mother of God. This was done towards the evening, usually as the bell rang when local monasteries were in the midst of chanting the divine office. So through the years, this practice expanded to include a morning recitation and then another at noon. Later then, the mysteries of the Annunciation and the Incarnation were inserted. Before and after the Hail Marys, and a closing prayer was attached. For me, my first encounter with the Angelus was when I was a young boy. In the recess yard at parochial school, between the school building and the sisters' convent, there we were at midday, flipping baseball cards and playing tag, when all of a sudden, the bell from the church steeple began to ring, and we would freeze. Literally freeze. And as one of the nuns led us in that familiar prayer, at the point, and the Word became flesh, we would genuflect. This was a daily ritual which instilled in me a certain respect for those words, even if I could barely comprehend them. And then later, as a student in Rome, I would find myself each Christmas Eve at the Basilica of St. Peter for midnight Mass, falling to my knees again as we professed our belief in the same mystery, Descendet je caelis, et incarnatus est, and the Word became flesh. I am only still beginning to comprehend this mystery. Named after the first word in Latin, the angel, we will pause at noon to pray the Angelus and replay again that drama of the Annunciation. But for now, ladies and gentlemen, Please welcome a woman of great faith, a wonderful wife and mother, Clara Gaymard.
Life is made of miracles. And for me, I was walking in the surrounding of the Orange County, you know, in a little city called Paris, somewhere in France, and I saw a light, a very big light, a light that I had never seen before. So since I am a curious woman, I thought I have to see it. And I flied in, and it was the Crystal Cathedral. And here I am. And since when I was a kid, my mother told me that when I go in a place, I have to say hello to each of the people and shake hands and kiss it the French way. I'm sorry I don't have time to do that to each of you, but I really want to do that. And the other thing my mother told me is that when you arrive in some place, you have to see if you can help. So I went in the kitchen there, and they told me, oh, you know, the lunch won't be ready before 1 hour. If you keep them inside the church, that would be good. So it's why I'm here for you. I'm here, you know, with my Frenchy accent. I will try to make me understandable, to speak to you about someone that maybe you know, but most of you don't know. My father, Jerome Lejeune. But I want to share you one thing, and it is not a secret, but a treasury. And this treasury, my father gave it to me, to my husband and my brother, the very day, the Holy Friday, during his agony, on the 1st April of 1994. He was laying in his bed in a very sad room, in a very sad hospital, with a very sad fellow that was just near him, as sick as him. And he told us, "My children, I have one thing I want to leave to you. We are in the hand of God." And since he could barely breathe, he wanted to give details, and he said, "I can't give you the details, but believe me, I had the experience several times in my life. We are in the hand of God. Remember that every day." And he died on Saturday morning on the Easter at 7 o'clock, when the holy woman comes to the grave, to the empty grave. And he just received from the priest the last benediction. And he said to the priest, "You know, Father, I have never betrayed my faith." So it's the story of Jerome Lejeune I want to share with you in the couple of minutes we will have together. Just to tell you that who was Jerome Lejeune, my father. He was a very simple man. And you know, when I was a kid, I was dreaming to do extraordinary things. I thought that being an extraordinary person was about doing extraordinary things. And I discovered day after day with my father that if you want to be an extraordinary person, you have to do very simple things, but in an extraordinary manner. He wanted to be a surgeon. You know, he was educated in a Catholic family, very normal French family. He didn't learn English, by the way. He had to learn English after. And he wanted to be a surgeon. So he studied. He was quite smart at school. He graduated when he was 15. And he studied medicine. And you know, in France, I don't know how it is in US, but to be a surgeon, you have to pass a special exam. The first year he came and he didn't get it. The second year he tried again and he failed. And the third year, which was the last year he could try to be a surgeon, he took the subway in the wrong way. So it was not his destiny. And he started to work with a doctor, and there, at the consultation, there were those children that you call Down syndrome, that in France we call Mongolism. And he just, let's say, fall in love with them and said, how can we do to understand why they are like that? Why they are not completely achieved? What is the cause of the Down syndrome? And he started as a physician to try to understand what he could do for them. And in a very old microscope, he discovered that putting on the paper that, you know, we have, as human beings, 26 pairs of chromosomes, that they have on the 21 pair of chromosomes, instead of having 2, they had 3. So the children with Down syndrome don't have less than us. They have more than us. And because he was already quite a well-known doctor, he has been several times here in US and worked on radiation at the United Nations. He was a visiting professor in the summer, June '58. And he came and showed his discovery to any professor he could meet here in US. But because he was young, because it was completely new, and because no one could believe that an intellectual disease could be caused by a genetic explanation, no one believed in him. He published his discovery in January '59, and that was the very beginning point of the genetic. For him was opened the first chair of genetic in France. He came here in US, in Israel, in Germany, in Spain, every place to build the new teams of genetic teachers and doctors. And there he made other discovery about other syndromes, and he became a star in his knowledge of genetic. And he received the Kennedy Prize in '62 in the hand of the President of America. And the President of America asked him, why didn't you come with your wife? And he didn't dare to say that he didn't have the money to pay the tickets. So my mother was invited the year after to come. And came the, let's say, the glory, the fame, the reputation. But my father was taking care of the patient at his consultation. He had 5,000 patients coming from everywhere of the globe to see him. And he said always, hate the disease, love the patient. And I have a lot of testimonials, and maybe some here in this room that have maybe met him once. And a lot of mothers that tell me the same story, which I didn't know when I was a kid because he would keep completely secret what he was doing at the hospital. So when parents had a child with a Down syndrome, in any family, it's a drama. What can we do? What should we do? And they came at his consultation. There was someone telling you, you know, there is the Professor Lejeune, go and see him. They will help you. He will help you. And he would take the baby in his arm, say to the mom, wear a white blouse, sit the mom in front of him, put the baby on the knees of the mom, sitting just in front of her, and speaking to the baby by his name. And at this very moment, the mom and the father was understanding that it was not a sick person, it was their baby which was sick. And this baby would have a future. Doing that, he really tried also to help the life of the children with intellectual disease, with Down syndrome or other intellectual disease. And he dedicated all his time to the consultation and also to the research to find a way to cure them. He really believed that one day we will be able to cure them. And by matter of fact, he was saying to us that when he will get old and will make the discovery of the way to cure the children with Down syndrome, he will do the pilgrim of Saint-Jacques-de-Compostelle by bicycle, because he was always driving a bicycle. And then, with this consultation, with all the people coming there, he understood that he has to do something more. And with Annie Shriver, he organized the Special Olympic in France. And I had the opportunity to meet a very famous people from US coming. This is the picture of the Olympic, the Special Olympic, and some of the athletes that won the medals there. And his life could have continued like that. And then came the drama of his life. He made the discovery of the Down syndrome. And another professor, Professor Lilly, in New Zealand, made the discovery of the amniocentesis. And those two discoveries, instead of being used to cure them, to try to find the treatment to cure them, was used to kill them. And that started in '69. He was coming in US as visiting professor, as he did often, and he made a speech at the National Institute of Health. And that was the beginning of the debate in US about abortion. And he said, me, as a scientist, I can tell you that the life starts at the very beginning of the conception. And a human being and a little being human is a human being. And he wrote a letter to my mother. He wrote a letter every evening when he was traveling. And he said, today, I know that I have lost the Nobel Prize. And that has started the fact that he didn't have got any money to make his research in France. He was, the famous professor that opened the genetic in France and elsewhere. He was on all the radio and the television, and suddenly it was finished. He was the man to kill. 2 years later, in '71 in France, there was a debate at the French television with people saying that we should allow abortion in certain cases. And one of the cases were the children which are different than the others, the handicapped child. And the only one that at this time we could detect before the birth were the children with the Down syndrome. And the day after, he was at his consultation as every day, that every morning, And a mother came with her child, a boy of 10 years old. And the boy was crying. So my father said, why do you cry? And the mother said, he saw the television show yesterday. And the little boy went in the arm of my father and said, my professor. They all call him my professor. They own my father. It's my professor. They want to kill us. You have to protect us because we are too weak to do it alone. And he came back home for lunch, as he did every day. He was white. I was 11 years old. I will always remember this day. He was absolutely white, and he said, I'm the one who made the discovery of the cause of the trisomy 21, the Down syndrome. If I don't fight for them, if I don't fight so they can live, if I don't fight so I can try to cure them, I am a bastard. And he could have continued his life saying, I'm against abortion, but he raised. He stood up. He was alone. No one wanted to follow him, It was, at this time, even much harder than it is here in US. He was accused by anything. And the way he said it is, he knew that it was a lost battle. But he said it's not because it's lost battle that you don't have to fight. And instead of saying it's not moral, it's not good, you shouldn't do it, I'm Catholic, I'm against that. He said, I am a genetist. I am a scientist. And I have to tell you the truth as a doctor, as any doctor of the world. Science is telling us that the life starts at the conception. At the very moment of the two cells are bring together, the one of the mother and the one of the father, the two cells mixed, making a human being. All the information of this human being is already there. We know already if it will have blue eyes, if it will be tall or short, if we like to be good in mathematics or good in sports. Everything is there. He has only to grow up. And he told the story of Tom Thumb. You know the story of the little man, maybe you had heard of that when you were a kid, of the man who is not taller than a thumb. And he said at this time we didn't have all the images that we have today. He said, the little man, the little baby that you have, and you don't see, you don't know who it is. He is that tall, but he has already everything. He has all the body, he has the hands, he has the heart, he has everything. He only needs to grow, and you have to protect his growth. And because he was putting the debate, not about saying, I have my faith, I have the truth, but just putting the debate on, I am a scientist, I have to tell you just the truth of the science. This is the reality of the life. It was very complicated to fight him and to go against him, because it was not a matter of conviction. It was just a matter of reality. You have to admit it. And for that, his life became very complicated in France and elsewhere. As I said, he didn't have the money to continue his discovering. And he was accused of many, many things. And one day I told him, you should protect your reputation. And he said, no, I'm not fighting for myself. I'm fighting for the one who don't have voice. I am the voice of those who don't have voice. The very small. So one day he came to Maryville, in a city called Maryville, because there was a trial between a couple who want to divorce. The woman was called Mary. The husband didn't want to keep the 7 embryos they have made, and she wanted to keep them. And the story was about to judge if those embryos were things that we could destroy or if they were human beings. There was no one, it was in August, no one in US that could come as an expert to make a testimonial. So my father flew in Maryville and make a testimonial. And the reason why he did it is that he received a call from a friend who is a lawyer and said there is this debate, and he said, you know, I'm working on my science and my research, why should I come? And his friend said, there is no one who can make the testimonial, it's on 2 days, you have to come. So he asked one question, what does the mother say? And Mary, the mother of the 7 embryos, said, even if I can't have those 7 embryos, you can give it to another mother. And my father said, it's the judgment of Solomon. After 2,000 years comes again a woman that prefers to give her children, the embryo, to another woman instead of killing them. So I have to come. And he made this testimonial with this woman called Mary in Maryville, with a lawyer called Kristen Berry, with a judge called Dr. Jung, and then came to the court, and the court decided that, yes, those 7 embryos, those 7 lives of Mary were human beings and has to come to life. And because of that, he really wanted to just try to convince everyone that, yes, we have to forgive. You know, and he started to create an association to take care about the mother that were pregnant and want to keep the babies. But I can tell you, I've seen so many women come to see my father who had an abortion and come to him so he could embrace them and explain to them that their child was there in the sky and protecting them. Because it's not because you are doing one abortion one day that you will forget it. The baby is still there. You have been a mother one day. You have to accept it. And the day you accept it, it comes like an angel that comes and protects you all the rest of your life. And this was the message that my father was saying to each of the women that he could meet that had this experience. And because this is the story of Mary, because it was the story in Maryville, I will stop now to the Angelus.
The angel of the Lord declared unto Mary, and she conceived. Hail, Mary, full of grace, the Lord is with thee. Blessed art thou. Holy Mary, Mother of God, pray for us sinners, now and at the hour of our death. Behold, the handmaid of the Lord. be it done. Hail, Mary, full of grace, the Lord is with thee. Blessed art thou among women, and blessed is the fruit of thy womb, Jesus. Holy Mother of God, pray for us sinners, now and at the hour of our death. Amen. And the Word was made flesh. Hail, Mary, full of grace, the Lord is with thee. Blessed art thou among women, and blessed is the fruit of thy womb, Jesus. Holy Mary, Mother of God, pray for us sinners, now and at the hour of our death. Amen. Pray for us, O Holy Mother of God. Let us pray. Pour forth, we beseech you, O Lord, your grace into our hearts, that we, to whom the incarnation of Christ was made known by the message of an angel, may, by his passion and cross, be brought to the glory of his resurrection, through the same Christ our Lord. Amen. Please be seated. Clara, if I could invite you now to continue your presentation. Thank you.
Because of his discovery, my father received a lot of awards, some of many American universities. But the one he was most proud of was that he was member of the Academy, the Pontifical Academy of Science. He was named by Paul VI, but he became close to John Paul II. He wouldn't say that he became friend, but the Pope said that he was a friend of Jerome Lejeune. And they had a lot of discussion, and my father and my mother went very often to meet the Pope. And one day, on the 31st of May, they were having lunch with the Pope. They took the taxi, the plane, came back to home, and in the taxi back to home, they heard about the fact that the Pope has been shot. So they were the very last person that met John Paul II at this very time. And I have to tell you the way that my father was living his faith. And maybe it will tell you the way that I am also living my faith. Being a mother of 9 children, being a CEO of a company, you know, many people are asking me, how do you do that? And my answer is that I don't know. And I can tell you it's a true answer. Because if you think about it, if you accept that you don't know, you do it. This is about faith. It's just about believing that if God is there, if you want to do something which is the truth for you, it will happen, even if you don't know. If you believe in love, and you believe that love is strong enough to do anything, even moving the mountains, why love shouldn't make you able to do things? And was the way that my father, a scientist, was living his faith in a very, very humble way. So every evening, we would have the prayer with gathering the family. We would be in the bedroom of my parents, sitting on our knees and making a very short prayer, not long. My father was not speaking at God at every word. He was living that. And the other thing he was giving to us, it was the freedom to think. And I have to tell you a very funny story, which have nothing to do with faith, but just to explain you the way he had educated us. Love and faith in freedom. One of my sister came back from school, And you know, I don't know if you know anything about the French Revolution, but there was a guy called Robespierre. And let's say this guy killed a lot of people. And she had a teacher that was maybe strange. So she came back for lunch and she said, "Oh, Robespierre is my idol. He's a great guy. He destroyed the king, he put freedom and equality and everything and so on and so on." So she was promoting Robespierre. And my father was smiling to her and said, "You know, I'm not sure I think the same thing in you, but I'm happy that you make your own mind." So he was giving us the freedom to think what we wanted to think, and never told us you have to do this way, this way, this way. He was just an example by his way he behaved. You know, I don't remember one day where my father told us you have to go to church. We just followed him. It was like absolutely natural. Because he was living his faith in a way that it was any minute of his life. You know, when you're living love, you don't need to speak about love. You speak about love when you miss it. But when you're living love in any day of your life, it's there. And you don't need big speeches and so on and explanation just to drive the right way. So, being close to the Pope asked him, John Paul II, asked him in March 1994 to become the very first president of the Academy of Life. And my father said, the Pope has made an act of hope by appointing a dying man. And he added, "I'm dying while I am in a special duty." And in the very morning of Easter, when my father died, there was a friend who saw him on television giving the benediction of the Holy Day, the Easter day. And he could see on the face of the Pope that the Pope was sad, so he called us. And he said, "I know that Jerome is dead." I could see that on the face on John Paul II. And when John Paul II came in France for the Day of Youth, he asked to come on the tomb of my father. I think he had never done that in other places. And we had the chance to have the Pope praying on the grave of my father. I have to say that to organize this event was not that easy, because there was a lot of opposition inside the country about this personal wish of the Pope. But we were able to gather some handicapped children with us. It was not only the family, but we had some of the beloved children of my father. And one of them, called Roland, he's black, he's handicapped. When he started his live during the 16 first year of his life, he didn't speak because no one took care of him. Now he's an independent man, and he's always smiling. And he was there with the Pope. And the Pope told him a secret. And it's now 18 years. And Roland, who is handicapped, everyone has asked him, "What did the Pope tell you?" And he said, "I can't tell it. It's a secret." And I'm wondering if all of us who are here, smart people, working people, would we be able to keep the secret like Roland did? For myself, I don't know. I hope, but I'm not sure. So, to come to a conclusion, because I know that it's time. I think the cook has told me that it's not, the lunches will be ready in a couple of minutes. I made a mistake when I told you that life was made of miracle at the beginning of my speech. Life is a miracle. Life is a blessing. And my father used to say, life, at the very beginning of life, there is a message, the genetic code of your life. And the message is life. And on the message is the life. So, because of that, we have wanted to continue the work of my father. One of the other things he told me the day before he died is, you know, I'm sad to leave you, but I know you will be okay. But what will happen with my little patient? First of all, they won't understand why I'm not here. And me, the one who was there to cure them, they will believe that I abandoned them. So we have created a foundation in France. We have started in France. And we have continued the consultation. And we have financed by 450 projects of research to continue to try to find how we could cure them. And we have financed 60 projects of research here in the US. And because of that, this year, we have decided to create a foundation here in the US, Fondation Jerome Lejeune. And the purpose is to continue to finance the research to one day give those who has an intellectual disease to find a way to be completely themselves. And you know, it's not only about the Down syndrome or the handicap disease from since you were born, but it's also about Alzheimer. My father, not only of being a great scientist, was also a pioneer. He understood that there was a connection between the Alzheimer and genetic cause. He understood that we could do research on the adult cells, like the last Nobel Prize understood. And this is that we want to continue, hopefully with your help, because you know, the one who are died, they don't want us to cry. They want us to continue who they were. Thank you.
Clara, thank you so very much. If I could ask you just to be seated for a moment, because I might not have the chance to do this again, to ask you a few questions. In your name, I have to ask you, because we're all trying to live our faith courageously, what can we take from the life of your father to help us to do that, to live our faith courageously in this day and age?
You know, my father was a very normal man. Yes, he was smart. Yes, he studied. Yes, he made a discovery which was very important for science. But I think the most important lesson learned about his life is that he knew that it is about to be humble, to try to do something that is bigger than you. It's not being ambitious or dreaming and so on. And it's all about faith. all where we are in our personal life, doing very small things. We are the child of God. And because we know it, we can do everything. It's our freedom. Truth is freedom. And truth is giving us the courage to assume this freedom. And it's not only words. It's something you can do every day. You know, I had just an interview with a journalist, and she was asking me, how can you be a CEO of a company and being a Catholic, and what do you do that, and be a mother of 9 children? I said, we are only one person. If I behave differently than when I am at the office than when I am home or praying at the church, there is something wrong. You have to just be yourself with all your limits. Accept them, but also accept your talent. I would say that there is one thing that my father was always repeating, and he was obsessed, and I would say that he has given that to me, about the time, the emergency, the urgency of doing things in this world. And I think we are now at a very special time of our civilization, in US, in Europe, and everywhere. When I was a kid, I was asking my father, what did you do during the war? And I think your children, your grandchildren also, can ask you that for this time. We are in a period of war. And I'm not speaking only about the economic crisis. I'm speaking about the fact that you see that it's a time of very strong opposition, where let's say the devil is fighting everywhere. And if we don't raise, even if we are weak, even if we are old, even if we are too young, even if I don't know, we are always too something. If we don't raise and say, I have only my poor hand, but I will try to do something, we don't believe in God, or we believe only because it's good for us, not because it's good for our brothers and sisters and all the people who are around us. So I would say here today it's a kind of miracle in this absolutely magnificent church. And you know, this church is magnificent for many points of view. But one thing that I think is the most important is that it is transparent. You know, we used to pray in church in Europe which are closed, where we are cut from the rest of the world. And this church is telling us, be a missionary. The word is there, it's out of the window, it's there, it's now. It's not tomorrow, it's now.
Thank you. I was so moved, my eyes filled up when the crowd here at the Crystal Cathedral broke out into spontaneous applause when you said that life begins at the moment of conception. And that was so clear in your father's life, his belief in that, in his work. And I know that these flyers are available in the welcoming center at the doors and down at the table in honor of your father. Could you just tell us briefly about the Jerome Lejeune Foundation that helps to continue your father's work?
Yeah, as I said, you know, I wrote also a book about my father. And I just want to tell you why I did it. First of all, I asked him if I was allowed to do that. And I thought, because he was humble, he would say no. And he said, no, yes, you can do it if you can testify about the life of the people who are different than us, but has the right to live. And I wrote also this book, and let me make you a very personal confidence, because I was pregnant. I was pregnant with my 6th child. I have only 9, sorry. I know that Pierre-Marie Dumont and Bernadette are doing much better than me, but... I was thinking, you know, my baby while I'm pregnant and my father is sick, she will maybe never know him. So I wrote the book just to make a testimonial about who he was. And I came to meet Pierre-Marie Dumont, and he told me, I will do that because I love your father. But this book, you will never be able to sell one of them because he's died. And now we have sold, I don't know how many Pierre-Marie Dumont. So, it's also a matter of faith. Sometimes. So this foundation is about, there has been a research was done on mouse very recently, the mouse with Down syndrome. And my father was absolutely convinced that one day we will be able to put in silence the chromosome that they have too much of, 26 pairs of chromosome, the 21 where they have one more, 3. That's why he called it trisomy 21. And he was really believing that we put all the money, instead of trying to kill them, to find a way to put this chromosome in silence at the very beginning of their life, even when they are still in the mother's body. They could be normal. And now we have been able to do that on mouse, so it is possible one day. So this foundation that we have created, and Mark Bradford is here. I don't know if he can raise so you can see him. He is the director of the foundation, is there to finance this research, believing that science is in service of the human being. My father used to say that a little science keeps you away from God, but the love of science brings you back to God. And this is our hope.
I know everyone's hungry, but I have to ask you this, or I have to at least note that while you were speaking, for those watching on TV and those of us here at the Crystal Cathedral watching the television screens, just behind you was one of the wounds of Jesus Christ, the nail mark through his feet. And there are people here in this room, there are people watching on television who are experiencing suffering right now, and it comes to us in so many forms. Do you have any advice to us? Because we all have to face it. I know you have faced it. How can we face suffering with courage and with faith?
I remember then when we were children, my father used to look at us. We were 5 children. And he was looking at us with, eyes of love, but also of wisdom. And I know that there was not any minute, any day, where he was not thinking of those parents who had children with a disease, or were sick, or were suffering, and how lucky he was. I remember Sundays, Christmas Day, where he had someone, because he was a doctor, calling because someone was sick and so on. And he said always, you never make waiting someone who suffers. So he would let us and go there. Suffering is, used to say that in a big family, sharing suffer diminish the suffer, and sharing the joy make the joy bigger. Sharing the suffer is the way to help people to go on their way, which is not, I don't know any easy life. And to accept the suffer is one of the ways to make the suffer not as heavy as it is. Give it, we used to say in our faith that we'd give it to God. I think it's more than let God help us to accept this suffer and taking it like a part of our life. And I know that many of us had this experience, that you have gone through a very tough period of your life. And now you can say it was a blessing. Because we all suffer in our life, we all have joy in our life. But if we accept the suffer and take the suffer away to grow up, to understand more the other human being, be more human, be more humble, accept the reality of the life like it is, it makes your heart bigger. And you can accept and share with others this community of love, which is the only thing, even when you suffer, that really, really give you the joy and give you happiness.
Thank you. So you're the CEO of GE in France. You're an author. Word on the street is you're an incredible wife and mother. Clara, merci beaucoup for your inspiration and your words and your presence to us today. Now, before you get up, I want to turn over, first of all, our television and internet audience to our virtual hosts, Jay Fadden and Kevin Nelson. And I just have a few instructions for those of you who are here with me in the Crystal Cathedral. First of all, you can pick up.
Wonderful. And we are up. And we are back. Thank you so much for being with us. And Clara joins us now. And first of all, thank you for being with us today, and a very enthusiastic crowd. I'd like to start off. What was your relationship with your father?
I was a daughter. I admired him and loved him, and it was a very simple, natural relationship. I mean, when I was adolescent, I remember that some of our friends were criticizing their parents. And I never had the opportunity to criticize him or my mother because they were just, I don't have any single minute of my life, even when they were telling me that I was not doing the right things, that I was not absolutely sure that they love me. Yeah. And I think, the only gift you can really give to your children is that they know whatever you do, whatever happens, that you love them.
Mm-hmm. And it's great to have that example and to see that in your mom and dad. And what struck me too was the fact that he wrote to your mother every night, and that's something too I think is a great example of the bond and the love that as children they see in their parents.
My father was there for breakfast, was there for lunch, there for dinner. So we had a real family life, and he had a great tenderness. He was always taking care of my mother. My mother, this reciprocity. And when he died, my mother took the lead. And there is something I didn't have time to share, is that when I spoke to my father before he died, and I said, we'll take care of my mother. He said something which is absolutely amazing. He said, I don't worry about your mom, because I know that you will take care of her. But I know also that she is an extraordinary person. When the day I'm died, she will raise. And it's absolutely what happened. So now she is president of the foundation, and she's writing every day a letter for all the donators, and she's really the soul of the foundation.
When I think of my dad, I'm very close with my father, and I talk to him every day. And my dad was a hard worker, and he accomplished a lot. But there was behind the scenes, he had a great sense of humor. He has a great sense of humor, and was a great. What was your dad like behind the scenes?
My father has a great sense of humor. And by matter of fact, when he became sick, he said, "Don't worry about me, because one of my doctors is Dr. Israel, The other is Dr. Christian. So anything can happen will be the sign of God. So he had that kind of sense of humor. He liked to make jokes and so on. So he was, yes.
We're talking about family life too, and maybe, years ago it might have been a little bit easier with less distractions, raising a family and sort of keeping them focused. And maybe if you could talk about that now with so many technologies that are developing, how do you sort of, relate to the family, keep them focused, to sort of have that special bond?
So let me tell you a personal remembering. We traveled in U.S. with our 9 children, and we rent a big van. Then we called Wendy. So every time we were going out of the car, people were saying there is one more. So the 9 children and my husband and me. And when you travel in U.S., sometimes you have long miles to do. So you can travel 5 hours before you go from one destination to another. And they never stop speaking. It's like we had a radio on. My children are very close to each other, and they don't need any. Of course, they are going on iPad, they are looking at films and so on, but the relationship between them is so close that anything, any joy, any sorrow is shared by everyone. And I mean, it's not the question of television, of iPad, they all are going on Facebook, they have a lot of friends and so on. It's just believing that the heart can be bigger than you think. The discovery I made when I had my second child is that I could love the second child as much as I loved the first one. When you have the first child, you think, I would never be able to love as much as I love. And you discover with the second, with the third, and so on, that your heart can be big and big and big and big. And this is what you learn when you have a family, when you raise a family. I say every day to my children that I love them. And I mean, maybe I'm not a good mother, maybe I'm not perfect. I know that I'm not perfect. This is something that, being a mother of 9 children, you know from the very beginning, you are not a perfect mother. But the only thing they know that I'm trying to do my best. And this is really, I think, don't complicate your life. Don't do things that are too complicated. Don't want to do perfect things. Just do simple things, but do them well.
Well, it's clear that your dad shared his faith with you. When you were in that hospital and he said to you, we are in the hands of God, how did that change your life?
I think he just told me what I knew from since I was born, because he always behaved this way. But the fact that it was the last thing that he said, I want to tell you only one thing. After all what we have learned about him, that it was the most important thing that he wanted to tell us before he died. I think that is giving you such a confidence. Because anywhere you are, even if you are wrong, if you are making mistakes or whatever, or you are suffering, or you are in the hand of God. You are in the hand of the infinite love. So that has given me a lot of confidence, even the day I was tired, the day I didn't know what to do, the day that I was doubting about what is the future and so on, the uncertainty of the future and so on. If you are in the hand of God, what can happen?
I was taken aback when you said that he called and he said, I'm not going to get the Nobel Prize now, because he said that your father took his belief in the dignity of all life and put that above personal gain. For you as a daughter and for his other children, that must have been an amazing example of how we should live our life.
Yes, absolutely. But I think one of the things which was even more important than that is what I tried to explain in my speech, is that my father lived his life. He has dedicated his life to the handicapped people. He has destroyed his own reputation and his career to protect them. But he never told us to do the same. He just told us, do what you have to do what you love, but do it a lot and do it well. But he never asked us he never said to us that being a good Catholic was to make sacrifice. He made the sacrifice because it came into his life. He didn't choose it. It's something that he had to do just because his purpose of his life was to cure and to protect the one that he had the responsibility.
You think
So-
you'd be horrified today to see some of the things that are happening in terms of physician-assisted suicide and all of those other things?
Yes, of course. And the last battle he did was against euthanasia. It was already there when before he died, and he made his last battle, and he said, "I'm like the centurions. I can't raise, but I do that on my knee."
And how about having him as a servant of God, and what's it like for you, and to see people respecting him, to see him being, well, basically, it's on a pathway to possibly sainthood down the road.
So I didn't speak about it during my speech because this is something which is in the hand of the church.
Yeah.
What we had a ceremony which was very moving in April, because it was the first step of this beatification, where you have to give all the testimonials and so on and bring to Rome. And I think that is the church to decide if he will be a saint or not. And to be honest with you, yes, it's important, but it's something which is so big
Yeah.
that my father, my mother, and my brother and sister, we don't understand. It's something that is completely above us. What we think is that it's our duty is to give our father to the church. We had this great chance to live with him, and we have to give him back to anyone who wants to know his life, to share his values, and to just be supported by him and by his example.
I have some pretty cool friends, but Blessed Pope John Paul II probably beats all of them. What was it like to have Blessed Pope John Paul II as a friend, and why do you think that they gravitated towards each other?
First of all, they were having a lot of discussions about science. John Paul II wanted to understand where the science was going, because he said, the church has to be modern. The church has to understand the science. And having Jerome Lejeune explaining him the really latest stage of the science was very important for the Pope. So they had, let's say, a scientific and intellectual community. And I think also the Pope was grateful to my father to be a laïc person, raising to protect the life as a gift of God in a way that was understandable to anyone, even the one who was not believers.
I was heartbroken when you told the story of how your father, who had found the genetic code, then in turn that finding led to people taking lives.
Yeah.
That had to be just heartbreaking.
That was heartbreaking for him, and it's why he decided to fight and said, yes, it's a lost battle, but I have to do it. Even if it's a lost battle, any day I win. It's a life that is saved and so on. And I have, as a scientist, because I know, I have to tell the truth. Even if no one is listening to me, even if I'm speaking in the desert, I have to do it. Maybe one day someone will listen, someone will understand, but I have to tell the truth. I can't just shut my mouth. So yes, for him it was really heartbreaking. And until he died, it was like he has lost what he wanted to do, because he didn't find the way to cure them. He thought he would find during his life. So he gave us this testimonial, and we have to continue that.
I had a sister who was handicapped.
Yeah.
So first of all, thank you to your father for fighting for those people. It seems today that people, they put these values on life, and one life could be more important than the other, and yet all life is precious and a gift from God.
Yeah.
You'll say much better than I. Why is it so important for us today to look at these children who have a handicap as a gift from God?
So let me put it another way, because we as Catholic, we believe it's a gift of God. But let's speak to a normal person. And my father was always taking the example of the antique Greece, Athens and Sparta. The two cities were fighting each other. Sparta was the city of military. So only well-trained people, military people, and so on. And Sparta killed all the handicapped and the weak people. Athens was the city of the culture. And who remained? Only Athens. And the thing you do for the little, the smallest of ourselves, is something you do to myself. It's what God is saying, but that can apply to any civilization. A civilization that kills the weak people, the small people, is killing itself.
Well, Clara, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
And that was wonderful. Wonderful
Thank you.
speech.
Thank you, Clara.
Thank you.